Hi, I'm Kelly Forshaw-Smith, Head Medical Micropigmentation Trainer for the Finishing Touches Group and Director and Technician of Medicos London. Today we have
Truchan, owner of Perfect Definition and Scalp Micro Definition and trainer for Nouveau KB Pro.
She is joining us, and today Elle's subject is going to be medical micropigmentation on vitiligo. So welcome, Elle.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So first of all, for anyone out there, probably needs to know from the start, what is vitiligo?
So vitiligo, you may have noticed on people occasionally and not even knew what it was. It's the white patches on the skin that you may notice. Usually on a darker skin tones, it's more visible than on a lighter Fitzpatrick skin tones. It is an autoimmune condition, despite what majority of people think being skin condition. It's actually an autoimmune condition, which results with white patches being created due to destruction of melanin cells inside the skin. So basically, in simple words, that's what it is. It's an autoimmune condition that destroys skin pigmentation in patches that progressively expand or don't expand anymore after the certain event.
Very good. And Elle, how did you get into doing medical micropigmentation for vitiligo?
So it's actually a little bit of a long journey. Hopefully we have enough time for that. So I'll just quickly browse through it. I used to be a stockbroker and I moved into becoming a permanent makeup artist in 2014. So that's where I started. Then I've learned medical micropigmentation in 2015 and I became a trainer for Nouveau and then KB Pro in 2016. But my actual vitiligo journey started a little bit earlier, before I even knew or heard of micropigmentation. I got a laser tattoo removal done around my ankle for a tattoo that I didn't want in 2007. And sometimes between 2007 and 2009, due to quite severe burns that I was experiencing, I've noticed there was something fishy going on there. The white patches from the little burns that I had started getting bigger and bigger, but I thought maybe some just scarring or anything like that. Not really bothered too much at that point. But when they started expanding to other areas in about 2009, I got a little bit concerned. So I went to the GP and I got misdiagnosed with something else. And I went to another GP and I got misdiagnosed. And I was like, that doesn't sound right at all. So I started researching online. And obviously, thankfully to internet, you have different resources and you can read about all those medical conditions. And I came across vitiligo and I was like, okay, that kind of looks like my stuff. So I ended up going to a private dermatologist who actually confirmed that it was vitiligo. And that's when it all started. So my vitiligo started progressively getting more angry in 2010. I was going through a little bit of severe stress at that point in my life, and it just expanded. It was just appearing in different areas around my body, and it was very stressful having it done, which I assume added to my stress and made it worse.
Yeah.
And then it got really angry between 2010 around 2012 and 13, and I was like, that's it. So any of the topical solutions I was given, like steroid creams from the standard GPs and so on, none of that was working for me. So I went on a quest of finding a solution to my problem.
Very good. And we're very glad you did.
Yes, I am a little bit of a freedom fighter, so anyone who watches my Facebook feed will notice that. Free the animals and free us from lockdowns and so on. So I was on a quest of freeing myself from vitiligo. So I traveled a little bit from specialist to specialist. Anyone who had some sort of experience in vitiligo treatments, usually they are medical professionals. So there was Netherlands most recently, there was Germany, US, Dead Sea in Israel, Britain, all over the place. I've seen different types of specialists. And as I was doing my research and coming towards, my solution, because I managed to help myself in 2016 and recover 95% of my own pigmentation, I put a pack of things that actually worked for me. And when I've learned micropigmentation in 2015, that was one of the things that I added to my pack. So micropigmentation and microneedling. So for me, it was microneedling personally that also helped.
So did you learn the medical micropigmentation because you have vitiligo, or did that just come part and part?
It actually was quite a few things tagging me in that direction. It was my own vitiligo. So when I went into permanent makeup field in 2014, I already knew there was medical micropigmentation, and yes, I so wanted to learn. But there was also my childhood friend who was suffering from breast cancer, who later died, and she was going through her unfortunate, horrible experience, and that tagged me towards the nipple and areola tattooing.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the things were just pushing me in one direction, and it was just kind of natural thing I fell into after learning the permanent makeup,
Yeah.
which I also still continue.
It's a little bit different than being a stockbroker, that's for sure.
A little bit.
But I would guess a lot better.
It's different, you know. I mean, both jobs were great. High adrenaline spikes in the previous one, and a little bit calmer, although not stress-free whatsoever in a present job. But yeah, both good, very different.
So going back to the vitiligo with medical micropigmentation, so can everyone have it done, or are there limitations for who can have it done and when they can have it done?
So this is a little bit controversial, as you probably have seen it yourself. Like anywhere you're looking on different forums or different trainings, people will say different things. And again, because vitiligo is such a still undiscovered, uncapped condition, the views will vary. So for example, from my experience and from my training and from my insurance purposes, we are okay to treat when the vitiligo has been stable or in remission for 2 years. So it has to be stable or in remission for 2 years, meaning it shouldn't be changing or expanding or having any whiter dots showing up, but it's okay to treat if the pigment is being recovered. So that was my own situation. I was treating myself when the pigment was in the recovery stages. So again, if you look around the forums, some people will advise that it should never be treated.
Yeah.
Some people will advise that it has to be more, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Some people will say, oh, it's okay to treat at any point. So it's really dependent on where you learn and how you learn it and what you've been told, I guess.
I mean, on a personal note, I have treated patients before with vitiligo years ago before they put in, you know, it should be remain dormant for 7 years. I've personally, of those patients, never seen it, you know, it trigger or it get worse, or, you know, or years later there'd be more problems. But I mean, most insurances, well, some insurances state, like you mentioned, 7 years of it remaining dormant before you can touch it. But like I said, I don't know. I've seen links of it. I've not seen links of it. It's hard to know because obviously, unless you do someone, you don't know whether it's going to trigger in years to come. So I mean, I'm not sure if it's someone, you know, sat on behind a desk and says, oh no, we must give it 2 years or we must give it 7 years. But obviously, with your research, obviously having it yourself, tell us a little bit about what you found of, you know, what are the triggers of what you think of, as a personal experience, to what triggers off vitiligo.
So vitiligo, it's a little bit funny. It's an overworking immune system that thinks your melanin cells are a foreign object and it wants to go and kill it. The reason for that is the immune system is not behaving correctly. It's malfunctioning, but something has to cause the malfunction. So from the years of research that I've done it, I discovered that a lot of patients that suffer from vitiligo experience intolerances or allergies or irritants in their body that could cause it because they have something happening long term in their system, constantly putting autoimmune on a high alert. autoimmune is overworking, and same as us. Imagine us overworking, like working 16, 17, 20 hours a day and not getting enough rest, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough break. On some point, you're going to give in and you're going to start making mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So think about autoimmune system having to constantly, for example, fight with something that you are intolerant to, but you keep consuming it. So let's say you are gluten intolerant, or wheat intolerant, or for example, you contracted candida, and your body is continuously trying to fight with it, and it has no break from it. And then you have an extra trigger. For example, you have a cat or scratch on your skin, or you have fallen off the bike, or you had a car accident, and there is a psychological or physical trauma adding to the ongoingly overstressed immune system that is constantly already working on a very, very high alert. Then something can go wrong. By making a mistake and malfunction in the immune system will go, okay, I need to kill something else. So it just goes, okay, I'm fighting with candida nonstop, and I'm fighting with the intolerance of gluten nonstop. And this is something new. I don't know what that is. I'm just going to go and attack it. So just almost like it makes an error because it's overworked.
Yeah.
And when it kills the pigment inside the skin, it will create a skin showing the white patches. So that's how kind of the behavior is understood and how it works. So to stop vitiligo progressing, we need to remove the original cause. So we need to put it back into the normal behavior and make it stable. So quite often you will note that people, they've tried few things and the vitiligo just kind of went back to being stable, and it hasn't progressed for many, many years, because maybe something in your life has happened that the irritant was removed, or you changed your diet, or you're trying to live stress-free life, or so on. So for a lot of people, it was just like singular event. Well, for others, that progression of vitiligo is still there because the autoimmune system is still fighting something. So before I ever even touch anyone, I speak to them about their history of their vitiligo. I want to know when was the recent changes and what they are. I actually don't tell them what I'm expecting to hear for me to be able to treat them. I want to hear the truth from them, because a lot of people are desperate. Usually when they get in touch is because their vitiligo is in a bad state, so it's progressing. And those ones I cannot treat with medical micropigmentation or with microneedling. I can't. I don't want to aggravate the vitiligo. It's in a stage when it's angry, it's on a high alert. It's only going to concentrate on anything that we're doing to the body and go and expand most likely. So that's why I don't treat in those circumstances. But I don't want to tell that to the patients before I actually hear it from them, because when someone is desperate, they will say, oh, no, it's been like that for many years. Can you treat it? It's normal, it's human nature. I probably would have done that myself when it was, aggressive, when it was expanding. I would have done anything to get rid of it. It's really affecting a lot of people psychologically, and until you have it, it's hard to actually understand, unless you work like yourself with a lot of patients and you know the emotional impact it has on them, right?
Yeah.
So before I even treat anyone, I pre-screen them. So I want to hear their vitiligo journey, the treatments they've tried, when it was most recently active, how it was active, what was happening. So if I cannot help them with medical micropigmentation or microneedling because it hasn't been long enough for it to be stable or in remission, I have another plan that I've put in place myself of the things that I did to suppress my autoimmune being on a high alert and put it back to sleep. So I give them that plan. I don't charge them for anything. I tell them I'm not a doctor. I can't give you medical advice, but this is what I did for myself and for quite a few of my other patients. And it has helped them. And now the vitiligo that is in remission for quite a long period of time, we can look at it again and treat wherever is left from it.
Yeah,
so
I think it's educating the vitiligo patient before coming in, because obviously you don't want to make it worse for them, because you're going to make the whole thing more stressful. So just educate them with the consultation. Like you said, you're very kind, you don't charge for it. So it's letting them be aware of what it is, and then they can choose from there.
And also it's up to them if they want to take my suggestions and try them out. It's never a quick fix with vitiligo. It takes years to recover your own pigmentation, like it did for me, as you probably heard from your own patients as well. It's not a quick fix. There is no magic wand. And I actually, when I give them the advice, there are words included. There is no magic wand with vitiligo.
Yeah. I always use that I'm a technician, not a magician.
Yes,
So that's my
same.
favorite. So, but like you said, it is an ongoing thing. Some of these patients that I've had as well, the same as you, because I mean, how long do you leave in between a treatment yourself?
So once we get to the stage of a treatment, and I'll be honest with you, it's quite rare because the patients that contact me are usually in the expanding stage, and those ones I can't treat. But the ones that actually go through the consultation and are assessed to be suitable for the treatment now, I leave minimum 6 weeks between the sessions. Usually
Same.
I like it longer, but they also have to do additional things before I agree to actually treat them. So from me, they
What
get in
sort
a
of
whole.
additional things do you recommend them to do before they come in?
Okay, so I'm not a doctor, but
Yeah.
I ask them to go on supplements. So they have to source usually from their GP vitamin B12 injections, because the vitiligo likes high level of vitamin B12 for the immune system to stabilize. Vitamin D, vitamin C, folic acid, zinc, iron, and this is going to sound really cruel, but I ask them if they can reduce their animal based food intake and go more plant-based food. And there are some other reasons for it. I can't get into the whole thing because we'll be here for a week. I suggest if they follow, it's up to them. While they are on supplements intake and they build that up before we even start with the treatments, I also suggest they do the test for intolerances, allergies, so they can find out what could be the irritant that still is inside their body and remove that. So if it's gluten, it's gluten. If it's lactose, it's lactose. If it's candida, get treated for candida, which is like a fungus inside the blood, inside the skin that is actually not visible to the naked eye. So I get those triggers, those irritants away out from the system first if I can, to allow the immune system to just chill and not be as aggressive towards everything else.
So technically you're prepping your canvas and
yeah,
giving it the best possible chance to get the best result. Oh, I think that's a goodie.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I also suggest they try, before we start with the treatments, to try UVB lamp.
Okay.
So when the immune system is in a good condition, UVB lamp has a better chance of stimulating the melanin production inside the cells, but that takes time as well. As the skin renews itself, you know, the dead cells cannot get stimulated. We have to wait for the new cells to be created and then they can be stimulated. But again, it doesn't work for everyone.
When you do your treatments, I mean, obviously people can come on your training or they can go train somewhere else, wherever they want to do. Are you needling or are you adding color? That
depends. So for the Fitzpatrick 1, 2, 3, normally I will recommend only micro needling. That's because I'm a little bit funny with the pigment. I know you do it super successfully, and I've seen some of your work on lighter skins, and I've seen other ones, and they look great. But for some reason, I am a little bit personally on a different side. I will treat darker skin tones, but the lighter ones, people tend to go on the sun. In the summer, they will tan, and the pigment doesn't change the color. And in the winter, they go pale, and the pigment stays the color that we've matched at the time when I was watching their skin being the color that it was at the time.
See, that's when this is what's nice, is that we're two technicians who do medical micropigmentation. So it's lovely to have a conversation and to have a debate, if you like, on what we'd use, a friendly debate. So what I tend to do for mine is I will mosaic a color in, so lots of colors. So like sometimes there'll even be up to 20 colors. And that's how I work around like the skin. It will never be perfect, but it depends. Like you said, it all depends on the patient, all depends on the area that you're working. So for example, the hands are a lot harder than say if you've got a piece on the skin, and also an area that's in the sun a lot is going to fade the pigment more. So they're all factors. There's so many factors. I mean, that's why I would say, I'm sure you agree, but it not just because I'm a trainer, but you really need to be trained in this. It's not a matter of picking up some pigment and going, oh, I'll have a go at that.
Oh gosh, no, you can't do that. Please, nobody don't do that.
Color it in. And it's like, no, don't color it in. Don't even touch them. Step away from the needle.
It's not paint by numbers.
No, it's not paint by numbers. I wish it was.
No, absolutely. You are so spot on. You need a real hardcore training before you even touch someone. If you are a permanent makeup artist and you're thinking like, I'll just have a go, please don't.
Yeah.
It's not going to end up well, neither for you or the patient. And also, even with us, I'm sure if you can't manage your patient expectations, you probably are super cautious about treating that person, even with years of your experience, right? If someone has unrealistic expectations and think that's gonna exactly match my skin and looks exactly like my skin, I'm going like, that's not going to quite happen, especially on the lighter skin tones, right?
Well,
So
also the skin is so many different colors that it's not going to be one flat color. And do you remember those pictures? This is what I always say to my patients. The pictures that they had all the dotting in, and then your eye kind of draws towards it. If you use one flat color, your eye is actually going to draw more towards it than it did in the first place. So it's all a medical, I'm sure you agree, is it's a bit messy. It's not as perfection
it's
as
not a science.
tiny little hairs. It's kind of a bit messy. It's seeing how it heals. They come back again. It's a length. It's a journey that your patients are on with you. It's not, like you said earlier, it's not just I'll do one treatment and then I'm done. They need to be aware at the beginning that this is going to take a long time. I mean, on average, I usually say to somebody, I'm not sure about yourself, but about 3 treatments after I've done a color patch test. So I always do a little bit, if I'm using color, obviously we'll talk about the needling in a sec, but if I'm using color, I tend to do a little color patch test. If they're stable and they're a right candidate for it, I then wait for them to come back. And then that's a minimum of 4 weeks anyway. And I want to see that they're looking after it, they're doing all the right things. And then I'll begin. And then they're looking very roughly on a small patch at 3 sessions with a minimum of 4 weeks in between, minimum. Like you said, you want longer, really, don't you?
I prefer a little bit longer because someone's healing process is not the same as others person's.
Yeah.
So I usually say 6 weeks minimum, and then I will see you. So yes. Some people have crazy expectations. They think we just colored in exactly as you said, and that's it. They free to go. It's like, no, it will be few months.
Yes. I mean, I have seen some disastrous treatments, which I'm sure you have as well. And I just think it's a titanium-based product, particularly if you're dealing with skin colors. There's a lot of titanium in there, and like it just sits on the top of that border and starts to go a little oxidized and go a little bit yellow in like a long length of time. So you have to be very careful. We do a lot of dilution in order to get the color into the correct tone that we're after. We do a lot of mosaicing to get the right tone. It's not a matter of just picking it up, choosing a color like a makeup, putting it on your skin and going, oh yeah, that's the nearest one. It doesn't work like that. And each area, so if you think as well, the face is a different color than even the neck. Then you've got the body, you've got the groin. I mean, the areas that are affected by vitiligo in general tend to be around the mouth, around the eye sockets, the groin, the fingers, and then the toes. Is there any other areas?
Underarms.
And the underarm as well, yeah. So they're the main areas that you're working on. I mean, the underarm on its own, you have to factor in the fact that obviously we sweat. Of course I don't, because I'm a lady. But we do sweat. We're using deodorant as well. They're all things that are going to affect a color and the pH level that's in your skin. So it really is quite intense. I personally think that skin camouflage is the hardest of all of the micropigmentation I do.
Oh, I agree with you. And that's why probably I don't do it as often and as bravely as you do. You have years of experience over me. And even though I'm the person with the vitiligo, I still am so cautious. So yeah, actually, I should pop in and have a class with you.
I'll have to do it very similar, obviously with a glass of wine afterwards.
Or urine.
Exactly. So if you can't treat somebody with vitiligo, what other options are available to them?
So they are the standard options that you get on NHS. So you get the steroid cream, you've got the UVB lamp if they allow to treat you, or they may suggest you get one yourself. Then there are immune system suppressants. And they have a quite good recovery rate because the whole aggravation of immune system going crazy, trying to kill things, is being squashed down. But it's super dangerous because we know what happens with the patients that are on immune system suppressants for their organ transplant.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're suppressing it completely, so their immune system doesn't fight the foreign organ. Works similarly with the vitiligo, and it's been also in trials, so they are mixing different doses and different meds and trying out on some of the vitiligo patients. But it's dangerous because anything else that flies around, any virus, any infection, your body is not capable of dealing with it very well because your immune is being suppressed.
Yeah.
So you catch a common cold, it can turn into a nightmare. You catch, I don't even want to mention COVID. You catch a flu, or you scratch yourself and you get an infection. All can really turn badly. So it's one of the more dangerous options. There is also medication which is not available at all for vitiligo patients presently, and it's been worked on for quite a few years. But as you can as you know, with medication, it takes forever to be released after they are being tested properly and so on, and tweaked until they don't have any more severe side effects. It's an arthritis medication that it's been worked on, I believe, since 2014, and it actually has amazing results on recovering pigmentation with vitiligo people. Also helps in some of the alopecia cases because alopecia is a sister condition to vitiligo. So maybe soon on some point we will have it actually available to us, fingers crossed. But then you have other things that you can do yourself, for example. So as I mentioned, I prep my clients before I even treat them, the ones that I can. But the ones that I can't, I give them the list of the supplements and the name of the UVB lamp that they can purchase themselves, and help themselves by taking the high doses of supplements to kind of rest and relax the autoimmune, remove the irritants and allergens and candida if it's present. So they need to run the intolerances test, which is super easy. It's so accessible these days. Yeah, they can use the UVB lamp at home themselves. You can purchase them online. The medical providers made those very accessible, so anyone can literally obtain one. And as long as they are diligent and follow the plan, and if they don't have the irritants or allergens in their body stimulating the high alert of immune system, they usually get good results. I have quite a few clients that weren't suitable for medical tattooing or microneedling because their vitiligo was in expanding stage, in the angry stage, that went on those supplements and reduction of meat and anti-allergens and so on, and they're getting really nice results. So the vitiligo got stable, and then it started going back to pigmentation. So it's nice. It's hard to get all pigmentation back, but as long as you get the most noticeable patches and you start seeing improvement, you feel a lot better as well.
Fantastic. I mean, with my patients, the ones that I can't treat, because I don't do all the light therapy, but I'm actually thinking I might. That's obviously something you need to train in, to do all of the light treatments and so on. Can you do it in your own salon?
So I actually don't do it. I just tell them which lamp they can get. It's easy accessible online. They can buy it and use it at home themselves.
So you just buy it at home and then you can do it at home.
They have different sizes. They have a handheld ones. They have a standing ones for a bigger body coverage. I had both of them. I'm only using the handheld one. Well, I haven't used it for years, but I still keep it safe, sitting, waiting in case I need it.
Is that a little bit like those sad lamps that, if you're feeling a bit down, have they got any, well, obviously not sunshine, otherwise it would be tanning you and it'll have UV in, but is it a little bit like one of those sad lamps which you're meant to put into, if you're on the computer, say, all day, or you suffer from seasonal affective disorder, hence the sad lamp, you put it in your eyes and it kind of gives you a little bit of brightness to your day?
No, not quite. Actually, do you want to see it? I can run off and grab it. 1 second.
Okay. So also, while I was doing that, I also recommend my patients to have, if they can't treat them, is that they could look at maybe a camouflage makeup. There's quite a lot out there. I personally use one called Ripper, which I love. I actually use it as a day-to-day makeup. So it's sweat resistant, water resistant, and so it doesn't clog your skin. Oh, here we are. So this is one of the UVB lamps.
Yes.
Okay, so it is tiny.
Yeah, so this is the handheld one, and I swear I haven't used it since about 2016, since I recovered most of my pigmentation. But this is one of them. This is the handheld one. That's how it looks like. And
Wow.
when you pop it on, it has almost like a comb here, like a
Yeah.
brush. It's a distancer, so it keeps the correct distance from the skin. So, for example, when I used to treat my underarms, I would just place it here, and it's literally 33 seconds on each area, and then you move on to the next area, then you move on to the next area. So you pop your phone on a timer and it just beeps after 33 seconds and you just hold it to another area. So it releases the 311 nm light wavelength, which is the stimulant for natural recovery of melatonin, of melanin.
Wow. It looks a little bit like a giant's hairbrush, doesn't it? Or if lockdown continues, when I'm doing the underarm, it will brush them at the same time.
It's not a hair removal.
It's
But
a
you
hair
don't have those,
comb.
you're a lady.
It's a lockdown underarm comb.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so I was just mentioning while you were grabbing your bits a little bit about camouflage makeup. Do you use a camouflage range?
So I used to use personally on me, and if the patients that coming in asking what else they can use in the meantime while they're not suitable for something else, I used to recommend the range that I used to use at the time. It's called Dermacolor, and it's quite good. It's a waterproof, 48 hours lasting, and then of course you have to reapply and so on. But I heard you have an amazing range that just came
Yeah, I
out.
was
I
just
haven't
mentioning
tried it yet.
it's called Ripper, Ripper Camouflage. It's an Italian brand that is incredible. I'm actually got on my list to interview Luca, who is the designer, if you like, or the manufacturer of these products. So I'll do that one in another time. But I love it. I use it all the time on my skin, and it's just a matter of the idea is that the patient can do it at home. They can't be coming to us every day and having it applied. And the old ones, I don't know if I remember years ago when I used to do camouflage, like as the option for someone, is years ago it was like you have to apply this and then this and then this, and I was like, geez, it's so complicated. This is now fine-tuned and a lot easier.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I would love to see your range because then I can recommend it as well as a, in the list of
Yeah,
options
definitely.
and
Well,
the long
I'll
list
send
of
you
things I
some.
give to my people. Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. So going back to the vitiligo, we've obviously spoken about the UVB lamps that you'd recommend. We've seen one now as well. You've spoken about the before, what you recommend before for a patient to have. What about the after having the treatment? Is there anything that they can be doing after having the treatment?
So they need to continue on the supplements plan, and that's kind of forever for me to agree to treat them. It's like you have to stay on them, otherwise it goes back to what it was before, and make sure that allergens and so on are removed from your diet. And as an actual aftercare after the treatment, that depends on the body area. I usually have a microbalm, which I give out clients after the tattooing, or hustle butter. They all plant-based. I love them as long as they're not allergic to anything that is in it. Depending on the body of the area, I also like cling film. I like the good old cling film, and I like it wrapped up. So I get quite a good amount. I shouldn't say that. Quite a high amount of nipple and areola vitiligo patients. So it's actually nipple and areola that was affected by vitiligo, and it's partial or full of loss of color. So for those ones, they have to wrap it up because we wear clothes, male and females, women wear bras. So I need to be friction free. And they have to keep it moist for about another 2 weeks. Skin is takes time to heal, and we don't want any interference. Also, it gets itchy. So if they during the day won't scratch it, but when they sleep, it's easy to scratch it. So I like my cling film there to prevent anything happening to those areas. So that's pretty much my aftercare. Just the product, and obviously no touching, no picking, no products apart from what I give them. No water. I know there are different aftercares, and some people will say no, it should be washed. For example, I like clean cling film, but I don't like the areas to get wet. It just kind of creates different scabbing of effect. I like it to be moist with a microbalm or hustle butter. I don't like getting wet, so I advise them to protect from the water with those waterproof injury plasters that they can apply if they go into the shower, and then put the cling film back on and so on. What's yours?
Mine is, it is interesting because it's all very different, like you said. Mine is all about getting air to it. So immediately after I try, if I can, obviously if it's on the breast area for vitiligo, I tend to use just gauze. I make sure the area's dry first, then I put gauze over the area. And then when they get home, they're to remove the gauze, let the air get to it. And then put on something dark, clean and soft after. No bra, no dressing, no anything. And then the next day continue as normal with a nice dark, soft, clean bra. So it is very different, but there's different theories with it all. And I guess it's just whatever works best for you. For each individual patient. What products do you use? Like, as in what? I know you said you work with Nouveau Contour.
Yeah, so I originally was trained in 2015 with Nouveau Contour pigments. Then I was actually training with Vicky Martin for nipple and areola, also in 2015. That was with the LI range, with the Camo range. And then I got into the world famous, the Pink Ribbon range, which also has skin colors. So all those ranges, they have a nipple and areola and as well the skin colors. So honestly, I still work with all three of them. As you said, you mix pigments. I swear to God, I never mixed 20 of them before, but I have used different one, and even from different ranges, even that it's a little bit, you're not supposed to do that, but if you know what you're working with, well, I do. So, and I never had a problem as long as they were patch test for all three brands, I had no issues with them.
I mean, obviously we only use the range. So say it's one range, we only use that range. We don't mix ranges, but we do, you can mix different colored pigments all together.
I mix ranges.
Oh, do you? Okay. I'd say for anyone out there, obviously to be a bit careful in case they're not organic or inorganic. Obviously, you know your stuff. Which is good, but if they're inorganic or organic pigments, it's quite, well, you can't mix them, you shouldn't mix them too much.
I don't mix them all in one pot, but I mix them as I go from session to session to achieve the different density, different color. So I do mix the pigments, not in one pot.
Right, okay, good.
But I mix them. Let's chuck it all in and just block it out.
That's a bit like my cake baking. And if anyone's ever seen my cake baking, they'll know exactly what I mean by that. So
I don't bake probably for that reason.
So someone who's had vitiligo, obviously we mentioned that the triggers of the needle going into the skin is what can cause it to spread. Can they still have normal needling like meso or skin injectables? No.
It's the same. It's still injury. Even if they fell off the bike and scraped their skin, it can happen again. It can get re-triggered. It's not specifically just tattooing or needling. Any injury to the body or any intense psychological trauma. So, for example, strange one, women get vitiligo from giving birth or getting pregnant. It's a disbalance in the body, and it's one of the triggers, and not a lot, obviously. Some people get it from a loss of a family member or an accident, something really traumatic happened, and unfortunately it can trigger it. So it's not just physical, but it's also mental trauma. So I just ask them all to be as relaxed as possible, try not to get stressed about things, bigger picture and so on. So no, I wouldn't needle. It's the same rules for tattooing, for needling for me. It's still needle in the skin, is still an injury to the skin.
Okay, but so it doesn't matter how deep it goes?
To me, no.
No, okay.
But other people may have different views and different opinions. Everyone is welcome depending on how they work, and what they know. I try to work within the scope of what I believe works and 100%. I feel safe with.
I think that's what everyone should do. They should, if they see something, they they mustn't do that. Actually learn about it a little bit more, see what works for you, and then whatever works for you and your patients. I mean, that's the main goal, isn't it? Is getting the best results possible. And if people aren't talking about it like openly like this, then it does get a bit confusing. So I think it's really invaluable to have this sort of conversation. So I think it's brilliant. One final question, and I'll let you get on with your day, is so obviously with the medical, it's not really known about that much with the vitiligo treatments that are available. What would you recommend to one of your students or for somebody, a patient looking to have the treatment done, to where can you advertise this? Where can you market it and let people know about what you can do?
So I'm the worst person for marketing and marketing advice you could ask. I never had an advert running, so I wouldn't know much about it. What I would say is, we should make the doctors aware and
Yeah.
nurses aware and dermatologists aware of what we do, because we are the final frontier. I like that name.
Yes, I like
Because
that.
where everything else fails, we are the ones that fix it in the end.
Yes.
So same as with surgeries, with scarring, with the nipple and areola tattoo in post-mastectomy, with the skin camouflage, everything else is usually tried out first.
Yeah.
And what they end up with at the end is us as the last resort.
Yeah.
So because we are at the end, it's almost like we are forgotten, because if the doctor can't fix it, he will not recommend going anywhere else. But that's not the right approach.
Yeah.
They should be recommending. They will say, if those treatments, if those steroid creams don't work, if the lamp doesn't work, if this doesn't work, and we can, your vitiligo is in the right state, why not having the medical tattoo, medical micropigmentation, microneedling? But they don't. Some of them because they kind of in their little own bubble and they don't know about what we do. So educational programs for the dermatologists, for the NHS staff, for the doctors and nurses, that would be great. I think that's what actually would achieve the purpose and bring the knowledge a little bit more into the open market, if that's correct thing to say. Oh, otherwise you can of course market, you can put pictures online, you can put pictures on your website. Obviously you have to have a consent. You can put them on Facebook, Instagram, and so on. That's what I do. I just post everything on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Google. Well, not myself, because I would mess it up if I was doing it. I have someone doing it for me. I'm old school. I write it on a piece of paper and give it to someone else. Yeah, I mean, more education, more treatments. If more people talk about it and post about it, it will be more visible. But I really would love to get it to the actual NHS and to the private doctors and dermatologists, so they have like a leaflet or something. Say those are the options. Do your research, or wherever they can refer to a practitioner like us. But they actually should mention it on some point, and they don't. I think that's the biggest
we should
problem.
send this to them. We should be sending it to this interview, this chat, and then they can get knowing. So we love you, surgeons, dermatologists. Please put our products and services into your treatments.
Yeah, some do. It's funny, actually. I did a camouflage on a scalp for a gentleman who's a dermatologist, and he was like, "Oh my God, we need to tell everyone about it." I'm like, "Well, we try."
Yeah.
He goes, "You need to go and send the emails to NHS about what you do." I said, "Okay." So he sent me a link where you get the email addresses where you can send like stuff to the NHS. I got a response after chasing it about 6 months, 3 months later, saying we actually don't refer to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Try again. Well, we'll keep trying. We'll keep pushing what we do, and we'll keep educating. I think that's all we can do until then. Elle, this has been absolutely fascinating. I've really, really enjoyed chatting to you.
For both of us, I absolutely love this. And yes, I must try some of the stuff with you. So
Yeah,
I'll talk to you about that separately.
I'll send it to you as a thank you. And this is amazing. So everyone, thank you very much to Elle. This is the end of our interview for now, but I'm sure we will be back again discussing something else to do with medical. Thank you very much, Elle.
Thank you.